I go by Dark Veil, and this is another of my grim truth stories. I want to tell you the glass slipper didn't fit. I want to tell you I ran, but I'm writing this from inside a body that used to be mine, and there's a Helios event tonight, and somewhere in this building, a girl in facilities just got a notification she never downloaded. She's probably laughing at it right now. I laughed too. 3 weeks ago, I was the one in the supply closet. I used to measure my worth in fingerprints. Every night at Helios Genetics, I'd wipe them off glass walls that cost more than my childhood home. You learn things when you clean up after powerful people, like how they leave coffee rings shaped like continents, how they never look down, how the higher the floor, the quieter it gets. The executive level has carpet so thick it swallows your footsteps whole. That's where I worked. My stepmother said it was a good opportunity. What she meant was, they won't notice you there. She worked in compliance. My stepsisters, Lena and Maris, interned in marketing. They had badges with photos retouched to the point of fiction. I had a gray one that just said facilities. They went to networking mixers. I emptied trash cans full of champagne flutes. I didn't mind at first. There's a real comfort in invisibility. When no one expects anything from you, you can't disappoint them. But 3 weeks ago, before the Helios Centennial Masquerade, I got a notification on my phone that changed everything. Cinder beta access granted. I hadn't downloaded anything. At first, I thought it was phishing, spam, or some corporate glitch. But when I opened it, the screen displayed a live rendering of my face, mapped in faint gold lines, like a blueprint of something being assembled. Underneath it, "We see you." I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, alone in a supply closet. Then the app said my name, not typed, spoken, softly, like it had been practicing. Evelyn. I dropped the phone. It landed face up. The gold lines were still there, still mapping. Helios announced the Masquerade the next morning. 100 years in biotech innovation, invitation only, press excluded, black tie, biometric entry. Rumor was the CEO's son would make a public selection that night. My stepsisters lost their minds. Lena spent $600 on a dress she couldn't afford. Maris started intermittent fasting and called it optimization. She also started calling lunch a mindful pause. I started calling it watching someone eat 3 almonds and pretending they're fine. No one asked if I was going. The facilities don't go to the ball. But that night, Cinder updated. Event eligibility confirmed. Confirmed by who? I whispered. By blood. That's when my stomach dropped. I told myself it was just internal marketing software gone rogue. Helios built predictive AI models, genetic compatibility tools, behavioral forecasting. Maybe I'd been caught in some corporate cross-contamination of data. The next morning, a garment bag arrived at our house. No sender, no return address, not even a delivery company logo. Inside was a black dress, minimal and elegant. The kind of dress that doesn't scream for attention because it never needed to. But along the interior seam, so faint you'd miss it in normal light, was a pattern of branching lines, like nerve endings or like roots, like something that had grown rather than been sewn. Tucked into the pocket was a clear heel. Not glass, clear polymer, threaded with something that looked almost like veins. There was a label on the inside strap. Genetic match, 98.7%. I stood there for a long time. I didn't tell anyone. I don't know why. Maybe because for the first time in my life, something had chosen me. I didn't stop to ask what it was choosing me for. Here's the part I don't usually admit. I wanted it to be magic. When you grow up being compared to prettier girls in your own kitchen, transformation starts to feel like the only exit. Your name in that house always had a small pause before it, like your stepmother was deciding each time whether to spend it on you. You start believing one night could fix everything. One dress, one person finally taking notice. Cinder began coaching you. A small wireless earbud had arrived in the garment bag. I hadn't mentioned it because I hadn't fully processed what it meant. I put it in like it was the most natural thing in the world. Posture adjustments, micro-expression training, vocal modulation exercises. It would murmur directly into my ear, soft and unhurried. Lower your chin 3 degrees. Hold eye contact for 1.8 seconds longer. I followed every instruction. Within days, I didn't recognize myself in mirrors, and neither did my stepmother. She watched me across the dinner table one evening like I'd started speaking another language. Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "Why are you smiling like that?" she asked. I hadn't realized I was. Her expression wasn't jealousy. It was the specific face of someone who has just seen something they were afraid of. I didn't understand that then. 2 nights before the masquerade, I did something I can't fully explain. I searched for my mother. Not online. I went looking for her in the house. Photos, mementos, anything. There'd never been much, but there used to be a small framed picture on the hallway bookshelf. Her in a lab coat, squinting into the sun outside some building, laughing at whoever was taking the photo. It was gone. I asked my stepmother about it. She said she didn't know what I was talking about. Then she went to bed at 7 p.m. I stood in the hallway for a while, staring at the faint rectangle of unfaded paint where the frame used to be. The earbud pulsed once against my ear canal. No message, just a pulse, like a heartbeat, reminding me it was still there. The night of the masquerade, I dressed alone in my room with the door locked. The dress fit like it had been made from a scan of me, which I was beginning to understand it probably had. The nerve line pattern along the seam caught the light when I moved, shifting like something just beneath the surface of water. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. I didn't look like a girl who emptied champagne flutes. I looked like someone with a bloodline worth tracking. When it came downstairs, my stepmother was the first to see. She went very still in the way that isn't calm at all. Her eyes moved from my face to the dress to the clear heels and back again, and whatever color she had drained out of her. My stepsisters were already dressed, arguing about contouring techniques and whether under-eye shimmer was still relevant. They stared with the particular expression of people who had just lost a competition they didn't know they'd entered. Nobody said anything, which was its own kind of answer. Outside, a black autonomous Helios vehicle pulled up and opened its door. Not for them, for me. I wish I could say I felt triumphant. Mostly, I felt the specific kind of afraid that comes when something you've wanted very badly finally arrives and you realize you never thought about what happened next. The masquerade wasn't loud. That's what struck me first. No chaotic laughter, no sloppy dancing, no one spilling champagne and not caring. Just controlled elegance. The kind of room where everyone already knows the outcome and is simply waiting for the paperwork. Everyone wore biometric masks, transparent overlays that flickered faint data across the lenses as they turned their heads. When I stepped inside, several of them paused, not in admiration, in assessment, like a room of people checking something off a list. And then I saw him, Dorian Vex, son of the CEO, the prince. He wasn't handsome in the way that gets photographed. He looked tired. There was something pallid underneath his composure, the look of someone who's been quietly losing something for a long time and has gotten very good at standing upright anyway. When his eyes met mine across the room, the air shifted, not romantic, recognizing, like two people who went to the same school but in different decades. He walked straight toward me. "You're Evelyn," he said. Not a question. My mouth went dry. "How do you know that?" He didn't answer directly. He tilted his head slightly and asked, "What was your mother's maiden name?" That was the moment the whole thing cracked open. I'd been 9 when my mother died. Lab accident, they said. I remember the day clearly because my stepmother burned all of her clothes the following week, said it was cleansing, said she needed to start fresh. I remember watching the smoke go up from the backyard and not understanding why fresh starts required fire. Now I think maybe she was destroying evidence of a woman she was terrified of knowing. Dorian's mask flickered. Data scrolled across his lenses as he looked at me. The earbud chimed softly. Compatibility threshold reached. Your mother was part of our early neuroregenerative trials, Dorian said softly. She was extraordinary. And then she stopped cooperating. Stopped cooperating? She didn't die in an accident, I said. It wasn't a question either. His silence was the answer. Looking for me, not loving me, not choosing me, but tracking me. The dress, the app, the car, the coaching, all of it. This wasn't transformation. It was retrieval. Early in the evening, near the entrance, Dorian had touched my arm briefly and said something I'd filed away as strange. If you want to leave, do it before the presentation. After that, the building has a different protocol. I hadn't known what he meant. The music slowed. He held out his hand now, and his face was the face of someone doing something they don't want to do, but they have decided they can live with. That's almost worse than malice. If you leave now, he said quietly, they'll come for you differently. At least this way I'm here. They? My reflection in the mirrored walls looked fractionally delayed, a quarter of a second behind me, like a transmission with a lag. "What happens at midnight?" I asked. He hesitated just long enough. That was my answer. He led me to the center of the room. We stepped up onto a low pedestal under soft light. Applause began, soft and anticipatory, the way crowds sound when they're watching something they've already been told to celebrate. "Helios has carried a genetic defect for 3 generations," Dorian said, his voice amplified and steady. "Tonight, we restore what was lost." I tried to step back. The doors sealed, not slammed, just a soft, final click. I saw my stepmother near the back of the room. She hadn't come for the event. She'd come to watch. She didn't look surprised. She didn't look satisfied. She looked like someone who had spent years trying to keep a thing from happening and had just run out of time, resigned, and guilty. She hadn't been cruel. She'd been hiding me. I understood that in the same moment I understood it was too late. The heals that I'd been given were placeholders. Here on the platform were the real heals. Dorian gestured for me to put on the real ones. They fit. Of course they fit. But as I slid my feet into them, there was a slight pain. The pain wasn't sharp. It was invasive. Something threading upward through me. Not breaking anything, just mapping. The way a root finds water by feeling for what's already there. I couldn't scream. My jaw locked mid-breath. The earbud's voice, for the first time, went soft, not clinical, almost tender. "You were always meant to fit." Images fractured through my mind like film caught in a projector. I'm in a lab coat, signing something, crying in a parking garage, her hand pressed flat against the hood of a car, like she needed to feel something solid. She hadn't died in an accident. She had refused. She had run, and they had waited. The clock struck 12. No chime, just a low harmonic frequency that settled into my ribs like it already knew the address. Dorian grabbed my shoulders. His eyes were wet. "I didn't want it to be you," he said. That almost made it worse. The crowd removed their masks. Not monsters, just people. Investors, scientists, donors, and board members in good shoes. People who had attended this event before and would attend the next one. The heel tightened. My thoughts began to split and then overlap, then blur at the edges with something else entirely. Memories that weren't mine. A century of Helios bloodline data. Decades of trial and error wearing faces I almost recognized. My nervous system wasn't being destroyed. It was being expanded, merged. The fairy godmother was never going to save me. She was the archive of everyone who had tried and failed before me, including my mother. She was in there too. Still running. The last thing I saw clearly was my stepmother turning away from the room, not in disgust, in grief. She had kept me small, dull and invisible. Badge that said facilities, no networking mixers, no photographs that looked like me. She had burned my mother's clothes to destroy the scent. She had done everything she could think of. Helios doesn't forget its assets, though. As my vision fractured into something wider and older than my own eyes, the earbud delivered one final notification. Integration complete. I can still feel my body. It moves and it speaks and it smiles at the right times. But when I reach for a memory that's only mine, I have to search for it now. I find it eventually, small and specific, like a photograph at the bottom of a box. My mother laughing in the sun, or the feel of a carpet too thick to hear your own footsteps. The rest is Helios, generations of it. And tonight, at the next event, they will announce a breakthrough in hereditary stabilization. Dorian will stand beside me, whole and healthy, smiling with borrowed light. And soon, another girl in facilities will get that notification. She'll open it and see the gold lines mapping her face. I'm sure she'll laugh the way I did, alone in a supply closet, certain it meant nothing. I will be the voice in her ear, and I will say, "We see you." I hope you enjoyed my modern version of a Cinderella tale. I had such fun updating and revealing this twisted tale for you. If you like my stories, be sure to like or comment, and if you're feeling extra supportive, you can always buy me a coffee at the link in the description. I truly appreciate all the support you're giving me, and until my next Dark Veil tale, have a frightfully fun day.